is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
Just keep it safe with me. Anything you say will always stay with me. No matter what it is, it will make me leave. Make me leave. Oh no.
All right, here we go. OverDrive, off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN 2. Brian Hayes, Frankie Corrado, and there he is, the birthday boy himself, Jason Strudwick. Happy birthday, Struddy. What a way to spend it, man. A Thursday with a couple of guys from Toronto. Just what you probably dream of when you're turning 50, right?
No, I couldn't believe it. When I was a young boy, 11, 12 years old, looking to the future, when I was 50, where would I want to be? You know, Europe, New York? No. In my office with you two gentlemen, and I could see Frankie got all dressed up. Must have just got off the treadmill, Frankie.
Oh, yeah.
I was having a bit of a dilemma today trying to find something to wear for this.
Jeez.
We're a little behind on the laundry. But
It happens. Listen, this is one of those days, man. You got the open on.
Yeah.
You know, there's literally nothing going on in sports. This is a relax, put your feet up, let's have a fun time. There's nothing wrong with that for 3 hours.
Yeah, man. Struddy, the fashion police. For sure you were a fashion police guy. Guy shows up to the rink right away. Struddy's got something to say. Where'd you get those jeans? They come with a bowl of soup?
I got abused. I was not a good. I didn't care. I still don't really care about dressing. You know, like, you know, when you go look at the Mona Lisa, no one knows what the frame looks like, right? And so, like, I would wear whatever I wanted or nothing. It didn't really matter. I looked good.
Yeah, well, that's true, man. The locker room etiquette it's a wild scene in there, man. It's a wild scene in a dressing room. And yeah, I could see Strud giving it, and then I guess you got to be prepared to take it too, right? Like if you're going to chirp what other people are wearing constantly, especially crazy suits for young guys who just got money. Like that's what I always find amazing about pro sports. Right. You know, the 19-year-old, 20, 21-year-old who has no style, has worn a tracksuit almost every day of his life, and all of a sudden he's got $1 million in the bank, and someone says, you got to get some suits. And, like, some of them are just classics. If you rock a Navy suit, you can't miss. It's tailored properly, Navy suit, white shirt, and a tie, boom. But if you get crazy, and you see some guys in a hot pink suit. You'll see different stripes. You'll see different top hats.
That would never happen in Struddy's day.
Well,
never.
That's a good
no
question,
one's showing
Strud.
up to the rink in those types of things back then.
No one was. And Mark Messier got me a new suit, and he got me a green suit. And, like, I didn't even have a navy blue suit, and I was wearing this green suit. I'm like, why did I buy an olive green suit? I don't even have a blue or a black one. But I had this thing for years, and I still regret buying it. I should have just gone more conservative, but he wanted me to get out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
You know what's another one that you can sniff out a guy that's just freshly up from junior? The travel bag. If he's got one of those like Reebok duffel travel bags that you get as like a team issued apparel in junior hockey, and you show up on the private bird and everyone's got the nice black Louis Vuitton or the Gucci bags, and you're like, someone's going to have a word with you at some point about purchasing an NHL travel bag shortly.
Have to, right? And that's the beauty of the old school stories. You know, like I've heard Charles Barkley talk about it. I've heard NHL players, NFL players, like young guys that come into the league, and someone, you know, takes them under their wing, so to speak. Some grizzled vet who's married with kids and has been in the league for 15 years, and basically teaches you, like, this is how it's going to work. And I'm curious how that's going to happen, you know, again in the NHL. We've talked a little bit about it, like I guess this new provision in the CBA where the Players Association evidently has been fighting for a more relaxed dress code, or I guess no dress code. Basically, my understanding is players can wear almost whatever they want now to the games, and historically it was always just a suit. And I would guess 80-90% of players will continue to wear suits. The question is, who breaks loose? Like, who is the guy, or who are the guys who are like, screw it, I'm wearing whatever, a tank top. I'm wearing shorts. I'm wearing a short suit. I'm wearing, glasses coming in, top hats coming in.
There's going to be guys monetizing it. There will be guys walking in with a T-shirt with a big logo, and they're getting paid $100,000 for the year to show up to every game wearing some company's logo across their chest. That's going to happen at some point.
That's a good point, actually. I guess could you broker some deal with some boutique or some massive line of clothing, and all of a sudden you become the spokesman and you're wearing that might actually open up.
Someone's got to get a Costco endorsement, and you got to show up to games with Kirkland right across
you got to be on the
chest.
fourth line. Like, you have to be a fourth line if you're the face of the Kirkland line.
The guy on Calgary, Kirkland.
Yeah, Kirkland.
That's the guy who's got to do it.
You're right.
Yeah. But you know what's crazy, guys? Like, how often do we even see video of the players entering the game or the rink before the game? Like, Toronto Maple Leafs, it seems like there's cameras everywhere. Maybe Montreal, but like outside of that, we don't see a lot of footage of guys walking into the games. Maybe the playoffs a bit more, but I don't think it's actually that big a deal. Like, I saw that, and a couple of my buddies like, oh man, these guys aren't going to wear suits. Well, you don't see them when they walk in. Maybe you see them when they walk out, but I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal, actually. I think a big deal is the no fitness testing. I can't believe that teams went for that. How are you going to know if a guy's in shape? And you can say, well, we're going to skate him. But I think it's good to have a baseline. Like, personally, I wanted to have a baseline that I knew that, my VO2 or whatever, my other numbers were all kind of where I want to be. And I kind of knew as you got older. But I think you need that baseline. So I didn't look at it as a punishment. I don't know if players they think it is now. I look at it as like, hey, this is a measurement to see that, Frankie Corrado, Jason Strudwick, Matthews, all these guys did the work in the offseason, because I also want to know which one of my teammates did and didn't do it.
That's an interesting thought, like the idea that you're tracking your teammates.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. If some guy steps up and can't do anything in the VO2, you're like, I know what this cat's been up to the last 3 or 4 months, and we got to have a big year, and this isn't a great start.
Yeah, this guy stopped hacking darts in the middle of August, getting himself ready for the VO2. He thought he was going to show up and go 20 minutes on the bike. Not going to happen. You know what I think has happened, though, Struddy? I think, training for hockey has changed now so much that guys train a certain way for hockey, and then they get to a certain point in the summer, call it middle of August, and they go, you know what?
Fair point.
I actually got to get ready for fitness testing now. And it's like two different things. I think if you're not doing it now, then you're just falling behind, and it's way too competitive. The guys that make a lot of money, like the Pettersson kid in Vancouver, there's a great example of a guy you'd probably love to have a fitness testing for him this year to see where he's at. But I think it's the number of guys that would be falling behind are so minuscule because it's just way too competitive now, and you can lose your job too quickly.
No, and that is a really good point. That's a really good thing, because you're right. There is there's sometimes I got to get on the bike, or I got to do this to build my VO2 up. But so let's make it more sports specific. Something that I know that a lot of trainers like to see is broad jump. So doing 3 broad jumps. I mean, you probably did that skipping into your office today, Frankie Corrado. That is nothing to do. So that I can track where I'm at. And same with maybe like hip mobility. That's another thing I know that trainers really like. But the days of the bench press, I mean, I'd get on that thing and you're trying to just kill it. You're like, what am I doing here? Like, you don't, I'm not throwing a ball here. So I think maybe it's be more sports specific. Just again, so I can track it. I know I can get it tracked by my own trainers, and everyone has their own trainers. Yeah. But I don't know. Guys, I think at some point we might see the fitness testing come back. I really do. Again, not as a punishment, but as a way of tracking where I'm at and tracking each other and holding each other accountable on that team.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. And, I think what you said, Frankie, is very accurate in terms of the modern athlete. I remember speaking with, I think it was Max Domi years ago, about how he trains in the summer where he wasn't using weights. It was all like running and, stretching. Like, he was working out extensively. Clearly, he's in incredible shape, but was not like throwing up dumbbells and bench press and all that, where, again, to prepare for the test just to make sure Craig Berube's happy with you, maybe you got to do that. Like, if there's some sort of expectation, like you got to hit 15 at 225 or whatever the number is and whatever the denomination is, where it may not be conducive to what you're doing all summer. But I also wonder if there's a workaround with this in terms of them just applying it to the ice. Like, we're going to get you on the ice. Like, so that first day, like, be ready because we're time. Because I've always wondered that also. Like, I get the importance of being in shape. I get the importance of being in the gym, and you're a professional. You have to do it. We talk far too often about players who, wow, they really got in shape this year. Yeah, you're supposed to. You're a pro. Like, you have to do that. That's a requisite. Yeah. It's not something you should be getting some, flowers for, or some celebration that you did it. But I've often wondered this in every sport. I don't know what it would look like, but is there a way to test, like, actually what you've been working on the ice? Like, is there a way to test, like, is your shot harder or better or faster or quicker? Is your stride better? I don't know. I mean, wouldn't that be more?
There is, but you wouldn't know it. You wouldn't know it because all these teams now wear, like, it's called like a catapult. It's basically like a bra strap with like a chip in the back. Mm-hmm. And we would wear these in Toronto and Pittsburgh. And basically it could tell you all that stuff. It could tell you if your right side was working harder than your left side. And we could kind of forecast, hey, maybe this right hip is going to go at some point. Like, they have all that technology. But I think my kind of takeaways from all these camps, like I did John Tortorella's Camp Tortorella. I did Travis Green's crazy one. Actually, Babcock's wasn't too bad. But all these guys want to see is when you are pushed to a place that you don't feel comfortable going, what's the look on your face? Are you still grinding through it? Do you look like you're defeated? Do you look like you're tired? I think that's what these guys really want to get out of this thing, more than, like, the sports science guys, they'll get all the other stuff, right? But it's more the coach wants to see, like, how comfortable is this guy in a really crappy situation?
Yeah, and I like that idea. And I think that is obviously going to have to continue, right? Like, regardless of what the CBA says, coaches are going to have theirs. But every sport, has softened in that. Like, you talk to old school football coaches, hockey coaches too. It was always two-a-days. Like, there were two-a-days all the time. That's what it was. You showed up in the morning, you grinded for 2 hours, go have some lunch, chill for a bit, get the pads back on. We're going to hit again in the afternoon. And, they're still complaining about that, and the game's softer now, and the game's not as good, even though there was no evidence that the two-a-days actually meant anything come the season. It was just a way for, I think, coaches to get into the action and get things going. But, all you guys bring up good points. I am curious now about tracking, clothing deals and stuff like that for the players.
Yeah.
And who made it? You know who made it big was Cherry. Don Cherry is the guy who made it big.
Yeah,
that's
right.
when it popped, though. That's when it meant something.
Right.
When Don Cherry would show the players, and I don't know if you ever got on Hockey Night Strud, but I'm sure it was a big moment for you if you did. Like, look at this guy. I love him. He's the best. Look at how good they look. Like, that's what Cherry used to do all the time, and kind of glorify, the suits and how good guys looked when they're walking in the rink. It was the best, and that was it. That's all I remember, because you're right. On a Tuesday night on Global, I don't remember them showing guys walking into the Gardens, back in the early 90s. It was basically Hockey Night, and it was Coach's Corner. That's when it started.
No, Don Cherry, being recognized by him was something special. And he did, I met him once or twice, and he was like, oh, Jason Stradwick, whatever. It was so cool to hear him. But in all my years, I got interviewed one time for Hockey Night in Canada, one time, and I got the towel. They take the towel, they put it over. I honestly, I think I loved that towel more than I loved anything, including my family. I had this towel. Yeah. So a friend of ours moved in this for a few months, and I had the towel kind of put away, but it was above the other towels. I come home one day, she's working out in my gym in the basement. I go down to say hi. There's the towel, and she's wiping her greasy face off. I was just like,
"That's outrageous.
You're out. Find a place to live.
That's a kick out. That's a hotel.
I lost it. Hotel. She's like, I thought she had more. You thought I had more. Have you seen my stats? They don't interview the seventh defenseman every Saturday night like they do the top guy. I was losing it, so I washed it and folded it properly again. I still have it, but disrespectful.
That's got to be
Frankie.
On display, man. I've seen guys. Some guys get really carried away with that towel. They've used it as like their golf towel. I have seen that before, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm like, you just hit a chunked-up 60-degree wedge. You took a divot the size of a veal, and now you're going to wipe that with. You're going to wipe your wedge with the Hockey Night
outrageous.
towel. Are you outrageous. You're out of your mind.
No, but you're right, man. I would look at that like the rules of like touching a Stanley Cup if you've never won one.
Yes.
You can't touch a Hockey Night in Canada towel if you never played. Like, if it wasn't given to you by like the producer. and Scott Oakes standing beside you or whatever.
Yes.
Like you can't do it. I'm sorry. Like those are sacred threads. And
Struddy, were you in the league when they implemented the 3-hour rule at training camp?
Yes. So my first training camp, practice, game, practice. We were there all day. I came out of there. I was so tired. I'm like, I'm not in shape. I remember calling the guy who kind of works me out in the summer. He's like, how's it going? I said, I'm out of shape. I can't. He's like, well, what are you doing? Like, we're having a practice, a game, and a practice. When they put that 3-hour rule in, it was nothing. It was such a joke. And now it's shrunk down more. And I get it. Guys are in shape, and I think they're moving the right direction. This isn't like, look what we used to do. But just to give you a sense, it was so hard. You were so tired at the end of the day. You just drag yourself back to your room, try to eat something, just pass out. It was incredible how hard it was.
When I heard stories of guys like the old Grizzly guys that when the 3-hour rule came in, they were watching that clock like a hawk from the time 100%. They got there to the time like they were watching on the ice and they're like, we're getting there. And then you hear stories, right? Like they just get passed around the league. Certain players with a pretty big aura were like, we're out of here. See you later. Practice is over.
I was with the Blackhawks, and Steve Sullivan called the PA because we were out there longer than 3 hours. And the next day, it was timed. It was beautiful. It was actually beautiful because if you can't do it in 3 hours, I mean, come on. Let's get, we're coming in pretty much in shape. Yeah, and he just, I remember he said, I called the PA, and they're going to get it straightened out next day, 3 hours.
Who do you call at the PA? Like, are you at that point, are you calling Bob Goodnow, I guess it would have been? Are you calling him directly? Saying, hey, Bob, we're 2 minutes over here? Like, someone's got to snap the whip.
Got a rep at the PA, right? Like, every team has, like, your corresponding guy that you go to, and then it goes to the top from there.
And that's why you have the CBA and you have unions, but that's also why you have, seniority and guaranteed contracts, because I guarantee you, if it's not a guaranteed contract, I don't think Steve Sullivan's making that call, because you're probably worried like the coach is going to snap on you or hate you or say, hey, we're working on special teams. You don't want to be on the power play? All right, no problem. Go make your phone call. Go ahead. You're not on the power play anymore. But when you got this, when you have the CBA and guaranteed contracts, and like you mentioned, Elias Pettersson, what's Vancouver going to do to him if he shows up and goes, actually, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing a fitness test. What are they going to do? Cut him? Send him to the minors? Like the guy's, he's got a full no move. He makes more money than he makes $4 million more than Quinn Hughes. Yeah. And like Pettersson, I don't know. Like that's another thing. That if I'm him, I wouldn't really appreciate some of the reporting that's been coming out of Vancouver, where I've heard, we all have, that he's having a great summer in the gym. Like, that's embarrassing. You've been in the league for a long time, and people are giving you, again, a standing ovation because you're working out hard in the gym. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't want those type of reports out if I were him.
I'd want the reports after we see what your first 20 games are like.
Yeah, let's see how you play.
Because if he shows up, if we hear all this, all this praise about how great of a summer Elias Pettersson is having, and he's showing up to the gym and he's doing all his workouts and he's in his best shape ever, and he goes first 10, 20 games and he's not even half a point per game, then where are we at? Because that was the one thing that was supposed to lead you to having success. And if you're not having it, then where do we go from here? Did you lose it? Did the league figure you out? Like then you start asking those bigger questions, and it's not just one thing anymore. And then you're right back to the drawing board with him.
He's so talented and he's so smart. He's got such a good shot. And what I saw was he didn't seem to have any quickness to his game. He was getting to places slow and not making plays. So I think some of that was probably, the knee injury and unable to kind of fully train last year. So I'm interested. To me, he's one of the most interesting individual players to watch this first, he's got maybe first 20, 40 games of the year, because if he's not going, Canucks are going to be hard-pressed to get going. But, if he can get himself going, they're in a way better spot. But I don't think he was in shape last year. He just looked like he was getting to places slow. And that's not ideal for a skilled player who's kind of slight already. He's not a powerful guy.
Well, exactly. Like, he's got to get there a step faster than the mutant who's chasing him down. Because if he's in battles, like physical battles, he's not going to win them. All right, so speaking of which, I've got a couple of rankings for you guys today that I will hand out. You guys can debate among yourselves. You can take shots at me. You can take shots at the list. We figured after ESPN has been releasing all these top 10s, top 10 quarterbacks, top 10 running backs, top 10 everything based on execs and GMs and scouts, I'd list the 10 best players, best skaters in the NHL today. We'll get to that. In mid-July, we're through the draft. We're through free agency. There hasn't been much going on. I'm going to do a Canadian rankings as well, 1 through 7, as of today. Now, again, this is subject to change 2-3 months from now once we get started. Wow. But we'll get to that a little bit later this afternoon. Lawrence Applebaum, our friend, CEO of Golf Canada, he's over there at Royal Portrush. Weather has been crazy, and the rounds are taking forever. Those guys, they're out of the courses for like 6-7 hours. Where's the union for these golfers, man? They'd be calling it in at the turn saying, get me off the course. It's been way more than 3 hours. So we'll get you a live update on the Canadians, on how McIlroy's looking, Scheffler's looking, and day one of the Open Championship. So we'll get to that a little bit later in the hour. Frankie's in here. Struddy's in here. I'm Brian Hayes. OverDrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Coldplay, man. Sandbaggers. That Chris Martin, man, was that a scene in Boston last night?
Ooh.
Are you kidding me? What are you thinking? Dude,
Oh, yeah.
Coldplay just spent like 6 days in Toronto, and everyone I knew, and everyone I'm sure that you know, Hayes, was at those concerts.
Mm-hmm.
Are you crazy doing that? That is nuts.
The backstory, if you're not online, is because I haven't seen anything blow up like this in terms of viral in quite some time. Like, this is crazy because Coldplay's touring through North America. And it's such a massive tour. Like you mentioned, they were up at Rogers Stadium for 4 days, and they were here so long. Chris Martin hated the stadium and then pretended he actually liked it by the end. But that is a pair of colleagues that clearly are having an affair. Allegedly, or certainly looks like there could be something going on there, and they get caught on the big screen. Chris Martin's like, hey, look at these two, and then it absolutely explodes online. Again, people are reporting that it might be a CEO and someone who works in HR, and they're both married. And obviously not married to each other. I mean, it's just the craziest scene. And basically, you outed yourself at a Coldplay concert. And to your point, Frankie, everyone is there. Like, there's someone you're going to run into that knows you there. Like, it's too big of a concert. It's too big of a pop culture moment. Now, this wasn't hearsay, hey, I saw John, and you wouldn't believe it. Now this is obviously gone online, and it's exploded, and it's everywhere. But, man, Coldplay, Chris Martin, he just turned both of their lives completely upside down. And there's no getting the horse back in the barn now. It's gone, and it is sprinting as fast as it can go.
The memes right now,
crazy,
with this are unbelievable. Like, I go on Twitter right now, and if I'm not on the following page, if I'm on the For You page, this is the only thing that exists in my timeline.
Same.
It's like it's the only thing that's happening right now. Look there.
There's the grappler tweeting that out. These Coldplay concerts are getting out of hand, and then people are posting like different pictures of people, and there's me and the O-Dog. That was actually on the Hug Cam down at Scotiabank. It wasn't Kiss Cam, but it was Hug Cam, and we were tipped off. Hey, it's coming. We're in the alumni box, and we're like, well, what are we supposed to do? Are we going to hug it out? And look how awkward O is. Like, O was so awkward, and I'm like, I'll go in for the half hug, like the shoulder grab and pat, let everyone know we're in on the act. But anyway, yeah, Coldplay. Changing lives. Changing lives.
If you're having
no other way to put it.
You don't cuddle at a very public event. That's just it doesn't even make sense.
Right.
It's almost like you're asking to be busted. Like, just, okay, now everyone knows it's out there, right? Now our families know, our wives, husbands know. Like, that's what you quietly do on a beach in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's just, I don't know.
Unless you're asking for it. Unless you're just
maybe.
Like, this is it.
Maybe.
We're going to do it, and the CEO's wife, she's going to be driving a new Porsche very soon because she's getting 50%.
Can you imagine going home after that
right
and
now?
Being like, oh my God, on both sides. And what was the explanation for why the significant others couldn't go to Coldplay? That's another part of it. I've got to go. We got work tickets. I wish I couldn't go, but I have to. I got to bring people from work. It's like, yeah, okay, dude. Who are you kidding? All right, so more on Coldplay a little bit later this afternoon. We got Lawrence Applebaum coming up from Royal Portrush a little bit later in the hour, but we have a trade to announce. I sound like Jerry. The Maple Leafs have acquired Dakota Joshua from the Vancouver Canucks, I believe for a fourth-round pick. Is that right, JP? A fourth-round pick for Dakota Joshua.
Dakota Joshua coming home. He was drafted by Toronto.
He was drafted by the Leafs. I think he's a Michigan kid. I believe he was born in Michigan. But, yeah, he was drafted by the Leafs. And, he had health issues last year, obviously, that, delayed the start of his season. His numbers were not off the charts this past year, but the year before he had a career year for him. He had a very good year, very productive year. But he can play center, he can play wing. He's a big guy. It's kind of like is this kind of like another Nicholas Waugh? Like, how would you describe, Joshua and what kind of role he's going to play for the Leafs?
He's, because we've been talking about what Brad Treliving says, like last year it was more snot, this year it's DNA that needs to change. This guy fits the mold of what Brad Treliving is talking about, and he can be a difference maker. Like 2 years ago, when he was there in Vancouver with Rick Tocchet was really hard on him. You need to be confrontational. You need to be a guy that makes people uncomfortable on the ice. And if you can do that, you can make a difference. And Dakota Joshua, to his credit, did that and had a really good season. He had like 18 goals and in 63 games, was half a point per game. But more importantly than that, it was the way that he played. He was a difficult player to play against. He was physical. He was abrasive. And so if you think about what Toronto is trying to do now and how they're trying to turn over some of that DNA, yeah, like I get it. It's not 102 points Mitch Marner. Like there's never going to be the one replacement, but they're trying to patch it up in a different way. And if he's healthy, he has that element of trying to make people uncomfortable on the ice with the way that he plays, how confrontational he is, how physical he is. So this is going to be like this is a guy who fits a role in a really nice way for Toronto.
100%. That 2 years ago, he was a really good player. He can skate, he can score, he can hit, and he's got a little bit of like, as you mentioned, kind of like that Marchand, Evander Kane kind of annoying presence on the ice. He's noticeable. I want to say he was with. Was it with what's that little guy that plays for Vancouver?
Bluger and Garland. It was their line.
Garland.
Joshua,
Garland.
Bluger, and Garland at that third line in Vancouver 2 years ago was one of the best in the league.
Really
like third
good.
lines wise.
100%, really good. So do you put him up beside? Is it maybe Lawton or beside Nick Waugh, and try to get that going again, right? And just the other day we were talking about the third line or the bottom six for the Leafs. I think this adds something there. I think he can score, he can hit, he can be a lot of things. Now, what is his cap? Isn't it like $3 or $4 million?
It's in the high threes. Yeah. It's just under $4.
So which player are you getting? Was it the player 2 years ago or last year? Last year, as you mentioned, I think he actually had testicular cancer.
He did,
right? And the treatment really, and that would have thrown his. I mean, just all that, emotionally, not to mention physically, what that does. I don't think he ever got on track, but coming home and be energized. I like this kind of, for a fourth round pick. That's not much to give for a guy that I think could bring that to this middle of the lineup, maybe of what they need.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I can't quite figure it out from Vancouver's standpoint. Like again, he had a down year last year. They had a down year collectively. Maybe it's a cap dump. I would guess they have something else cooking. Maybe they're in on someone else, or they have a couple of other things coming, and they had to unleash somebody. But for a fourth rounder in 2028. Again, I'm, I guess, a little bit surprised another team wouldn't step in and offer that and possibly bring him in. Again, because he's 6'3", he's 29 years old. He's again, Nick Waugh 6'3" and shoots right. Joshua 6'3" and shoots left. Can play center. It is going to be interesting. Like these are clearly bottom six players. This is not a guy who's going to play on the wing with Tavares or Matthews or whatever. I mean, up front. It's going to be Matthews and Knives, Tavares and Nylander, and they're going to figure out who else is going to play with them.
Michelli's got to be up there.
Michelli will be one of them. Maybe it's Max Domi is another one. They're going to work that out. But I think in the bottom six, you mentioned Lawton, Joshua, Lawton, Waugh. Like you've got three veteran guys who I think can play center. They can play the wing if need be. I think this is a precursor to David Kampf clearly not being a part of the team in the future. I mean, I don't think that would surprise anybody. He didn't play in the playoffs, but they're going to have to find a way to unload that. Calle
Yarncroke.
Yeah, is Yarncroke going to be a part of this?
Dakota Joshua fills more of a role, like a clearly defined role that makes your team harder to play against than Calle Yarncroke. Yarncroke's like he's a versatile guy.
Do you think he'll play center, Frank, or do you think he'll play up? Like, could you see a scenario where it's Matthews, Tavares, Waugh, Joshua? Like that's your 1, 2, 3, 4 up the middle.
Could be. Yeah, like it could give you flexibility. Like you could go Lawton, you could go Joshua. I think when he was playing his best in Vancouver, Bluger was the center. And it was Garland, Bluger, and Joshua. So in my mind, I see him coming into the fold as a winger, but at least you have a little bit of flex that way.
And it gives them a bit more chance to get more minutes, too. When you're playing fourth-line center, not getting as many as a third-line left winger. Obviously, I'm talking 5-on-5. I don't know if he fits it. Well, obviously, probably not power play. Maybe some penalty kill. But I see him as a big, heavy winger. You know, when you're playing against the Florida, he can go out there and he can get to those D. He can make it happen. Like 2 years ago, he was a really impact player for the Canucks. Again, last year, not there. But I think this is a sneaky pickup if he can get back to that level.
Yeah, it's an interesting move. The Leafs acquiring Dakota Joshua from Vancouver for a 4th-round pick in 2028. Now, again, part of that could be because he does have some term and some money that the Leafs, because Vancouver's not retaining any money that we're aware of as of right now. Maybe that's basically what this is. It's a salary dump, effectively, which that could be what Calle Jarnkrok turns into, who is still a good player in the league, like can play. David Kampf can play. Like there's going to be a market for him to play somewhere in the league. There's 32 teams. Can he be on the 4th line in San Jose? Yeah, I would think he probably can, or go back to Chicago or something like that. But if Joshua's getting a 4th, that's what you would expect at best. If you're going to move off those two guys, you're not going to get anything.
Well, and now, Hayes, think about Toronto's lineup, okay? So you're going to have, let's say you have Nyes on your top line. You can have some combination now of, Bobby McMahon, Dakota Joshua, Nicholas Waugh, Scott Lawton. And, those are the guys that are more, I guess, prominent. But you have bigger framed guys
Steven
now.
Lorentz is back.
Yeah,
Big
exactly.
boy.
Stevie Lorentz. You got bigger framed guys who are willing to play more of a robust kind of game scattered throughout the lineup now, where it feels like in the past it was we got our one guy or we got our two guys. Now it's everywhere now. It's on every single line if you want it to be.
I love that. He can do it. That guy will be physical out of 12 forwards. It doesn't work like that. And you see it with Florida. It's player after player coming in. And being physical doesn't mean blowing guys up. Being physical can also be, driving the net hard or taking a puck wide or winning a puck battle against someone else. That is also being physical. I think sometimes as fans and media, we interpret being physical as just blowing guys up. It's not. It's winning physical confrontations, battles. And those players you just outlined, they can do it. I think Dakota John, he can have a return to where he was before. I think that Lawton is better than we saw him play for, I don't know how many games did he play there, 20 games, guys, whatever it was. If he can take a step up, now you're getting two guys kind of that are better than they've shown last year.
Yeah, and then you got Easton Cowan in the fold. Does he fit in this year? Are they intending on him making the team, playing for the team? I'm not sure. But that's an added element as well as an option because he would start his career, I think, for sure in the bottom 6. All right, so more on this as we move forward. Dakota Joshua traded to the Maple Leafs in exchange for a 4th-round pick in 2028, and this will take up some of the Leafs cap. I mean, you mentioned just under 4. I think they had, $5.5 million left. That's with Jarnkrok on the team, Kampf on the team. I think they can still move some money around. But it makes you wonder, what else is in store? What else could they pull off? What else can they add if they keep bringing in guys like Joshua and Michelli and Waugh who are owed money? And yes, Marner's out, but they're filling up that money. So what kind of flexibility do the Leafs still have moving forward to try and add to this team? So we'll get to that and more still to come. We'll head overseas, catch up with Lawrence Applebaum live from Royal Portrush as we track day 1 of the Open Championship. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
Now, back to OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog.
All right, the first day of the Open Championship is, I believe, completed. It's been going on it's a long day, man. A lot of players. Long day. But Jacob Olesen is sitting up there at the top with a couple of other guys at 4 under. Matt Fitzpatrick, Harris English. You got Scotty Scheffler at 3 under. The Hogard brothers both at 2 under, which is really, really cool. Tyrrell Hatton's up there. Lee Westwood's up there. But there's a lot going on. And there's 4 Canadians in the field. And to get into it, let's talk to a guy who knows Canadian golf very well, and Royal Portrush for that matter, because he's been over there all week and he was on the grounds all day today. Here's the CEO of Golf Canada, Lawrence Applebaum. What's the weather like over there, L.A.?
Well, it's still light out at 9:45. Sun is starting to set, if you can believe it. It's been a 4 seasons and 15 hours on the ground here.
No kidding, man. No kidding. Like, it was wild this morning, and long rounds too. Like, what you obviously are, as directly involved with an Open Championship as you can get with the RBC Canadian Open, and they can be long rounds. It's a big field, but did this feel particularly painful? The amount, like how long some of these rounds were taking, or what?
Well, Brian, you've played with a lot of people that take painfully long to play. You know what that's like.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about Frankie Corrado. He plays with speed.
That's right.
But I would say full field, when you've got a full field Thursday, Friday of any tournament, it's a long day. They've got a lot of light, so that's okay. The interesting part when you think about where our Canadians played in is the first tee ball's at just after 7, but Nick just finished his round, and so Nick will go out early tomorrow. So late finish 9:45, and then he's at it, at 7, whatever it is, 7:20 tomorrow morning. So it's a quick turnaround, but full day, that's for sure.
LA, prior to the tournament, a lot of people were talking about the speed of the greens and how they would be significantly slower than what the players are used to playing on the PGA Tour. How much have guys talked about that, and how big of a factor was that today?
Yeah, I mean, one thing we sort of heard from our Canadian guys and a few others that were sort of sharing some stuff around the practice green is it's really hard for the North American players to get there, to make their brains believe what their eyes are seeing, right? It looks great, it looks great, it looks pure, it looks fast, but when it actually comes to hitting the putts, they're just not rolling as fast. And with a golf course like this, we don't get a chance in Canada to see too much links golf or to play too much links golf, but so much is affected by the wind. It's affected by how it's rolling towards the water, away from the water, and things like that. So it's a bit of it's a real experience. It's super fun. I mean, I caught a lot of it on TV as much as live. It just looks, it really does look as good live as it does on TV. There's not a tree on the property. It's these beautiful vistas. And then once you get out there, it's brutally hard. Like, it's so hard.
How did our Canadians make out today? Judging by their score, it wasn't quite what they expected or wanted to do the first day?
No, it was tough. It was a tough day at the office for the guys. They had they probably got a little short end of the stick where the meat of their rounds was in tough conditions. So it was a typical sort of 4 seasons you get in one day, and our guys went out in pretty tough conditions. It was raining. Then it kind of cleared up a little bit, and then it got windy. So it was a long day. Our guys probably didn't do what you were saying, Strutty, not as good as they expected, but I do think you get a good day tomorrow, and probably the cut, they're sort of talking around the cut being around 4 over. So you have a good day tomorrow. Corey's right there, and our boys, they have a good day tomorrow. I think we're going to do okay, but it was a tough one out there.
Absolutely. With Lawrence Applebaum of Golf Canada, Corey Connors 3 over, Pendrith 4 over, Taylor 6 over, Hughes 8 over. But like you said, if the cut line's going to be 4 over, then there's still a lot of opportunity to, at a minimum, make the weekend. Rory McIlroy has had such a fascinating year, winning at Pebble, winning the Players, winning the Masters. And then he hit that dip, and it coincided with coming up here, obviously, to TPC Toronto. And he performs horribly. Let's call it what it is. I mean, on the Friday, I think he shot 78. It was a real struggle. But he seems to have really turned things around, Lawrence. And you've been around him, you've met him a bunch. What kind of disposition are you seeing out of him? What kind of body language are you seeing out of Rory today compared to what we saw a month and a half ago? And how significant is this tournament at this course in particular because it is in Northern Ireland?
Yeah, I think. I mean, we'll both remember that you lost to him by one stroke. Your pro-am number at 79.
Right. Valid.
You missed hitting him by one.
Almost had him. Bad read off your putt. Bad read off your putt on 18.
Blame the caddy.
You jammed me there.
Yeah, he jammed you. But the thing was, nobody was more gutted, honestly, than Rory about just didn't have it up at TPC Toronto this year. And I mean, the guy was gracious and did everything that you can ever ask of the guy, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. And so we're excited that Rory has been synonymous with our event, the RBC Canadian Open, since when he went back to back, on the bookends of COVID in 19 and 22, and he's just been such a great fan of our event and participated, and we couldn't have asked for more. The interesting thing out here, guys, is seeing, he's from nearby Hollywood, which is pretty funny to say, but he's from nearby. The bars, the pubs, the restaurants are jammed to the gills rooting for him. Like he couldn't be a more proud son of the region. And so, he's just got that, he's got that hop in his step. He's really, he looks fantastic out there. He didn't start. He did some media where he said he was thinking about, 4 years ago he went out of bounds off the tee, and then he said, all I've been thinking about is coming back to Portrush and getting off that first tee okay, and he almost did that. Unfortunately, he did bogey number one. But Rory McIlroy at Royal Portrush is kind of like, it's almost like the energy behind a deep playoff game for the Leafs. It's just electric out here. And there's a bunch of guys. You've got Shane Lowry, obviously, who won in 19. And then you've got a few other famous sort of sons here. You've got Darren Clark, and then Padraig Harrington was sort of first out this morning, somewhat ceremonial. So it's great. The Irish love their golf. It's a game for every person here, which is kind of the way the game has been starting to flow in Canada and places around where everybody's enjoying it. Everyone's playing. It's so funny to see so many, relatively famous or people you recognize, and they're so into their golf. Like I saw Niall Horan today walking with Rory's group. I saw a bunch of other athletes, footballers that were watching and being part of it. So it's an amazing phenomenon, and the sport is in a really lucky place right now.
LA, what's the feeling around Scotty Scheffler? You talked about all those players that, there would be, big crowds watching those guys. And I think a lot of people saw what Scotty said and said, wow, that's interesting that he would be that candid and that genuine and that open about what he's feeling. Have guys been talking about that? And what's the feeling around Scotty this week?
Yeah, I'm not super close to that camp. I did see the comments, and the sort of the word with some of the Canadians was really like, it's great to see the candor that Scotty, as number one player in the world, sort of sharing. It makes you think about the work you put in and the drive to win, or the drive to be number one, or the drive for major championships, and sadly, it's pretty fleeting. Like, you think about the guys who won the Cup this year, and they get a summer with it, and they get their day, but all of a sudden you turn the page, and they're back at camp, and you're back in the grind. So, you guys would understand that. I think what's so interesting about him is you look at his results, and even his not-so-great results are T20s or top 20s or being just outside of the mix. And so I think the rest of the field is somewhat feeling about chasing him. And you can see out here, he's one of the featured groups. So when you look inside the ropes, you see a ton of cameras, a ton of people, a ton of media. But that group with Rory, Justin Thomas, and Tommy Fleetwood was probably the number one group that everyone was watching and following. So, to see there are so many neat guys who are doing so many cool things. You just think about the guys we haven't heard of in a while. You see guys like, Colin Morikawa, or you see a Cam Smith, or guys who've been sort of not in amongst the PGA Tour mix at all. And all of a sudden you say, okay, there's going to be something special out here. And it's just neat to see the buzz behind the Open Championship and the connection, in fact, that they have to the RBC Canadian Open and Canadian golf is really, really a special thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're just getting started. Day one is wrapped up, but we got 3 more, and we're definitely going to have Canadians into the weekend. We're going to have a great tournament over there at Royal Portrush. And he is Lawrence Applebaum, the CEO of Golf Canada, and he's on the grounds. So enjoy yourself over there, LA. You bring the clubs? If so, how are we playing?
Yeah, the clubs might have snuck into the bag, not the carry-ons, but they might have made it in.
Yep.
And the beauty here is that you can get a relatively full workday in and then sort of sneak out and whip it around. And so there's a couple tracks here that have been on the life bucket list, and we ticked off one with a very special place called Royal County Down.
Ooh.
So a big shout out to our friends who hosted us there. But that one's really special. And then you sort of turn every corner, and there's another links golf course. It's facing the ocean, and as we're driving away from the golf course, we passed 3 golf courses I'd never heard of that just looked, better and better and better. So it's like it makes us realize how much great golf there is in the world, and we're on a nice slice of it ourselves. And Strutty, we're coming your way. We're coming your way in 2026. Royal Mayfair for the CPKC Women's Open. We just announced in 2026. Maybe we got to get you in the Pro-Am.
Yes, get Strutty out there hacking and whacking.
My game's on the upswing. I almost broke 80 the other day, so I'll be ready. I'll be ready. I'll be ready.
Put it in the calendars. We can't wait. You got to get through Mississauga first, though, coming up in August. We cannot wait for that. All right, Lawrence, enjoy yourself over there. Thank you for doing this, buddy. We appreciate it.
Okay, thanks for all your time, fellas.
There he is, Lawrence Applebaum, the CEO of Golf Canada. Okay, we love it. Ladies on their way out to Edmonton in 2026, and they'll be at Mississauga later this summer, I guess in just over a month, I think it is, or about a month from today. So we look forward to that. All right, hour 2 coming up. The Leafs have made a trade. We'll get back into it. The Jays are back in action tomorrow night with the Giants in town. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 2.
TSN delivers explosive, all-elite wrestling every Wednesday on Dynamite. Unbelievable! AEW Dynamite on TSN.
This is OverDrive with Hayes, Noodles, and the O-Dog on TSN 1050.
OverDrive continues, powered by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Brian Hayes, Frankie Corrado, Jason Strudwick. Jay's back in action tomorrow night. We're only a couple weeks away from the trade deadline. We'll continue that conversation here in a few moments. Recapping day one of the Open Championship over at Royal Portrush. And the Maple Leafs made a trade about 20 minutes ago, acquiring Dakota Joshua from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for a fourth-round pick in 2028. Like, that's how old we are, man. They're trading 2028 picks now. You know, it's kind of crazy. But I guess now one way you can look at it, and the offseason is not over. I still think Brad Treliving is going to be kicking tires at making more moves, and I would not be surprised at all if he made another move or two between now and opening night. But it's effectively Marner out, Michelli, Nicholas Waugh, Dakota Joshua in, and possibly Easton Cowan if he can make the team, right? So that's basically what they've done here, you know. And again, I don't think it was ever going to be about one guy, you know, with Marner leaving. It never was going to be a one-for-one maneuver. That wasn't going to happen. And when we discussed this forever about trying to spread the wealth out, I don't know if Michelli's capable of being an impact player. I'm somewhat skeptical. You know, why would Utah move off him if he was so good and this untapped skill set that's just going to explode? But we'll see. He'll be playing with better players than he ever has in his career, clearly, if he gets a chance to play with Matthews or Nylander. But, you know, Nicholas Waugh, Dakota Joshua, those are quality, you know, depth players. And they're each going to make $3 million, $3.5 million, and that's kind of what it is, right? Like, yeah. Instead of an $11 million guy, you're going to get 3 or 4 guys that are making $3 or $4 million.
And the way the Leafs roster, you know, the money had been allocated for so long, it was the haves and the have-nots. Like, you never had your Leafs version of Anton Lundell making $5 million. You just couldn't have it. So at least they can spread things out a little bit now, but this really does feel like, you know, Brad Treliving putting his fingerprints on this team as far as what he wants them to look like and play like. You know, every acquisition now has a little bit of that just like feistiness or abrasiveness to it outside of the Michelli one. Because at the end of the day, like, you still do need to have skill. Like, the Florida Panthers are a hard team to play against. They're also a very skilled team. Like, they have guys on their third line that are skilled enough to play on first lines around the NHL. We can't forget that. But, yeah, like, this is it's starting to really take shape here differently than how it has looked, I guess, on paper in the past.
And that's the challenge. Like, Florida is the team. They have 3, you know, almost first lines down there. They have so much talent. It's incredible. So you're trying to compare yourself, your Leaf lineup or your Bruins lineup or whatever lineup to that group, and everyone's left wanting because they are really good. That top 9 is really, really good. So you're trying to do it piece by piece. You're trying to add and be able to compete with them with size on the wings. And I think size on the wings does make a difference. I think it does help in a playoff series to have that. Doesn't mean unskilled fridges. I'm talking about guys that can skate, get to the net, make plays, those types of things. So, you know, you're never going to win I don't think right away when Marner walks out the door, but right. You add pieces that come in and shape your team to look more like you want it to be over the long term. Because Marner will go to Vegas, he'll do well. I mean, if he's playing with Eichel's a really good player. The challenge there is that there's 2 righties, and it's a little harder to pass on your backhand to Marner than it is on your forehand. And I said it the other day, and I stand by it. Vegas losing their number 1 D-man is not as good as getting Marner. I'm sorry. I'd never make that trade. I would never trade if I was my number 1 D-man for Mitch Marner, ever. I would never do that if I was a team with the number 1 D-man.
It's a good point.
He's going to help.
It's a good point, though, Struddy, because like, fans of certain teams will kind of pipe in and say, well, we don't have a number one D-man, so we can't win. And if you look back at all these teams that have won Stanley Cups, oftentimes there is that number one guy, that bona fide guy, and Vegas is not going to have that. But it's not really, to me, it's not really about Vegas versus Toronto. Vegas is going to be good. I still think Toronto's going to be a good team. They're in a very difficult division in the Atlantic. Ottawa's not going anywhere. We know Florida. We know what Tampa's trying to do. Montreal should take a step or be what they were last year. This Atlantic division is going to be an absolute gauntlet this year. Not to mention, Detroit trying to take a step forward. Who knows what Buffalo is? And Toronto, with a different landscape of what their team looks like, is going to have to navigate that. Even with the Atlantic being strong the last few years, you kind of knew what Toronto was going to be about. Good power play. Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares could take over games, and you get yourself 100-plus points every year. I don't think you can roadmap it that way, but I still think they're going to be a good team.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, they haven't touched their goaltending. They haven't touched their defense. The Leafs they still have Stolarz and Wall, which was one of the best tandems in the league last year. And they got 6 defensemen who, you talked about it the other day, Struddy. Puck movement's important, and it's lacking. But the 6 of them collectively are veterans. They're big. They defend pretty well. You get a full year of Carlo back there. It's kind of like Scott Laughton, the same thing. Although Carlo played really well, almost from the hop. His numbers were very strong, and him connecting with Morgan Riley. But if you're the Leafs, you're a veteran team. You need to be a predictable, hard-nosed team. That's what Craig Berube is looking for, because Ottawa's still young, Montreal's still young. That's the kind of separator. I think you're right about the division and the assessment of it. But Florida's a veteran team. Tampa's, for the most part, veteran. Toronto's veteran. And they're used to winning. And they have a winning culture